Wow, it's the last Sunday of 2020. We've almost made it to the end. Phew. I am grateful to have been given this opportunity to visit with you here today, to give Reverend Chris a well-deserved break after the rush of the busy holiday season. I've really enjoyed getting to know many of you over the past few months. This is truly an amazing community, and I am grateful to have gotten to journey with you for just a bit, even if it has just been remotely. One thing I've been able to feel, even from afar, is just how much y'all really do love each other, and how much you're pining for the day when we can all finally come back together safely in person to actually be able to give and receive the support of community real time. So my sermon today will ultimately be focused on this longed for future. But before I go there, let's spend a brief moment looking back at how much we've lost over the course of this past 12 months. Truthfully, we should all mourn the many losses we have likely experienced, and not just gloss over them. Because taking time to truly lament our losses is actually a key part of the processes our souls need to heal. So we'll be doing just that next week during our fire communion service. But time continues to march on, and while we mourn the past, we must also attend to the present. And as humans, we will always be drawn to planning for the future. I know that many of us are tired. In addition to a global pandemic, 2020 has exposed the ugly underbelly of a society that our friends with marginalized identities have been trying to tell those of us that look like me is still very much alive and seems to be gaining momentum, even as a majority of our citizens came out and said, no, we want to go in a different direction. It's frightening, it's exhausting, and quite frankly, no one would blame anyone for saying, I know the fight for justice is just as important as ever, but I just can't anymore. So knowing that that is the reality of the world that we are living in, and that I am trying to act as a faith leader within, it seems to me that I have a very narrow tightrope to walk. I need to offer you a way forward in this next year that sounds both powerful enough to save humanity from itself, yet easy enough to implement, that every single person listening to my words this morning can log off this Zoom meeting and say, I don't have much left to give in this fight, but I could surely do this simple thing. Could adopting a single, small, shared intention really be enough to help us turn the tide and restore a sense of control amongst all this chaos? The natural world holds lessons that tell us not only is that it may be so, but also there is only one way that ever has the potential to work. As I told my panicking daughter after her kayak flipped on a river this summer, and she was sure that she was drowning, just stand up, my beloved. The water isn't nearly as deep as you think it is. As I look around, it feels like we're all working hard to keep our heads above water. We all see these big problems in the world, and many of us feel guilty at some level that we can't do more to help. And then we give more than we have available because the system we are swimming in is designed to keep us running faster than a healthy human should have to run. And then we find we have nothing left to give. We wonder if our efforts to social justice can ever truly amount to enough to make a meaningful difference. I don't know about you, but I think it's time to listen to some new voices and consider some new ways forward. If we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. So here's my pivot. My latest searching has led me to discover the work of Adrienne Maree Brown. Adrienne Maree Brown is an author, an activist, a social justice facilitator, and a healer, whose work has informed large portions of the thinking behind both the Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street movements. I'll say her name again because I want all the people listening to my words to seek her out if she isn't already in your view. Adrienne Marie Brown. I don't even know where to begin. I was instantly drawn to her thoughts because, like me, she listens to the lessons of nature to find solutions needed to heal our broken human systems. She draws a good bit of wisdom from Margaret Wheatley's Studies in Leadership, which is also based in science and nature. She pulls from quantum physics, biology, chaos theory. Time and again, everything that nature accomplishes comes down to relationships. Critical connections are essential. I'll say that again. Everything that nature accomplishes comes down to relationships. Brown studied the brilliant Black science fiction writer Octavia Butler. Her stories tend to have a consistent thread woven through that reminds us that all successful life is fractal. A fractal is a never-ending pattern that repeats itself at different scales. And although fractals appear complex, they are made up of simple, repeating processes. Our universe is made up of patterns, which can be expressed in simple math and converted to images with infinite levels. We see this perspective everywhere in nature. The branches of trees look the same as the branches of the circulatory system, which look like the patterns of rivers when viewed from high above. The pattern of a hurricane is the same as a spiral seashell, which is the same as a spiral galaxy. The world under the microscope looks the same as the universe through the telescope. These are the laws of nature. The large is ever made up of nothing more than the small, repeated and replicated over and over again. And here is Brown's lesson for us. Her emergent strategy shows us how we can be fractal in our organizing and in our leadership. We are all individual fractals of a larger dream. Our homes are fractals that combine to make our neighborhoods. Our churches are fractals of larger communities, and our communities are interconnected to form the larger society. So the question this concept begs is the following. How can we ever hope to have peace and tranquility in the larger world if we don't have those things first within ourselves, and then in our families, and then in our communities? Brown looks at nature and offers examples for us to draw from as we consider how we might move forward together more like nature does. Think of the concept of a murmuration. A murmuration is that effect you see when you witness large flocks of birds engaged in that seemingly impossible act of sky ballet where the whole group bobs and weaves and dances together in a leaderless symphony. Researchers have learned that to accomplish this miraculous dance, each bird in the flock focuses only on its 7 closest neighbors, thus developing a cohesiveness and a synchronicity within the larger flock. Small fish too do this too, swimming together with a synchronicity that protects each of them from larger predators. This next quote from Adrienne is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. She says, "My dream is of a movement with such deep trust that we move as a murmuration. The way groups of starlings billow and dive and spin and dance collectively through the air. To avoid predators, and also, it seems, to pass time in the most beautiful way possible." Can you imagine? In nature, everything works in collaboration. Hummingbirds and flowers are in such deep coordination that they need each other for their survival. How vibrant and alive and successful could our movement be if we shifted our focus away from trying to fix the seemingly unfixable problems of the larger world and shifted instead to learning how to genuinely rely on each other in such a completely intertwined way? Maybe it's less of a learning than a remembering what we seem to have forgotten. Brown says, small is good, small is all. Because remember again, the large is a reflection of the small. This is really good news. We don't have to worry about saving the whole world. This strategy encourages us to start local. Think about it. That's the level where nature always does her work. Why would we think we need to attend to anything beyond that? Brown implores us to focus on critical connections more than critical mass. She says we build resilience by building relationships. What we pay attention to grows and expands. The large mimics the small. What then should we do? First, we must learn to find our own balance. Our faith tradition offers plenty of paths for us to explore. The challenge here is overcoming the messages of guilt and shame that our society has attached to self-care. Thankfully, if this describes you, the solution I'm about to offer includes healing for your soul as well. The only thing I'm going to ask you to consider is setting your New Year's resolution to just strengthening the connections within this community a little bit more, with truly committed intention. Quite simply, to just make sure that you and all of your neighbors are truly cared for in the year ahead. The good news is that this is something I think this community already does just about better than any other I've had the honor of being a part of. What I'm talking about here is doubling down on a strategy that you're all already most all doing pretty well. I'm just talking about ramping it up even more. See, I don't just mean checking on someone when they're recovering from an illness. I propose what our society really needs to heal itself is a radical return to loving community. The same process that ensured our survival as a species to this point. Can you imagine if everyone in this community took personal responsibility to ensure the health and well-being of just 7 other folks in this community, just like the birds in that murmuration? Can you imagine if everyone here took the role of hummingbird or flower for just a small group of their neighbors? If one of us had significant wealth or access to resources and committed to be in life-sustaining relationship with a small group of folks in their communities, and another had less access, but had learned through grit and determination how to find true contentment with less, and could share those lessons for the benefit of those that had more. If somebody had technology skills and could help someone in their group better connect with others online while we're apart, and another knew a skill like baking cookies or how to knit a scarf and could share that skill with another, and made it happen. I know from experience that there are folks in this community that are struggling to put food on their table. I know from experience that there are folks here struggling with loneliness. I know for a fact that there are folks here that think they have nothing of value to share. And I also know from experience that there are folks here that look at some others and can't imagine that they could have anything of value to add to their lives. And here's the place where our faith reminds us to look at ancient wisdom. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Love your neighbor as yourself. These are not just nice bumper stickers. These were survival lessons that were passed down from our ancestors. These are the messages that have been drowned out by the gods of capitalism. These are the lessons that form the foundations of the communities that have survived everything to this point. Look, I'm not saying that this will be easy or initially comfortable. Capitalism has separated us all, made us believe that we need to rely on no one but ourselves, that everyone is our competition. And if we have acquired the means, then all of our needs can simply be met by outsourcing. What I'm suggesting would initially feel really messy. You might have to spend some time with folks you might initially wish you didn't have to. If you have wealth, you might need to share more of it than initially feels comfortable. But honestly, Do you feel comfortable now with the way things are? My experience of making this transition is that the comfort provided by the current model is never really comfortable. We know there's something wrong with the system that is supporting us, but we double down on the false comforts it provides and seek to ignore the parts we wish didn't exist. And it can't just be the extroverts, the natural connectors doing all this work. We all need to turn towards each other to both offer and accept support from our neighbors for this work. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly what this looks like. The theologians I've introduced you to invoke chaos theory and remind us that nature succeeds in messy ways through trial and error until it finds out what ultimately works. Maybe instead of being like the birds in a murmuration, it's not paying close attention to 7 of your neighbors. Maybe in human systems, the number is 2 or 10. I don't know. The process to find out is through experimentation. But here's the beauty of the approach I'm proposing to you this morning. You don't need to feel like you're trying to save the whole world if you simply put your faith and efforts into this one simple strategy. Can you imagine what would happen if 12 months from now, we all set our New Year's intention to practice this radical version of collective neighborly support? Can you imagine how much stronger everyone in this community would be? And can you imagine how compelling that story would sound to every new person that came into contact with a member of this community? It might sound like, wait, you're a part of a community where every single person is cared for and has everything they need to feel safe and secure and loved? How do I become a part of that community? And if a community like that one spread, and all UU communities began to focus on that radical mutual support and they started to expand, how long would it be until the smallest unit of that fractal, the individual that committed to balance for self, who then committed to support balance in their own community, how long till the majority of our society began to be grounded in balance and life and collective salvation, as opposed to the greed and extraction and zero-sum outcomes of the capitalist game? Imagine. Today, we might feel like we are drowning. Could our salvation really be so simple as just standing up where we are and deciding to take better care of those around us? It's almost a new year. This is the time for making those resolutions. What if you all simply commit publicly and proudly to just 2 things? What if everyone here committed to checking in consistently with as many folks as possible in this community to see how they are doing, and seeing if there's anything we might have to offer them or help them out? And as a part of this, what if each person also committed to have the courage of vulnerability required to answer this question honestly when it comes, and actually give voice to what we all need to have our needs met? Look, I don't know what 2021 has in store for us. I only know that the more tightly we are connected, the stronger and more resilient we will be, no matter what challenges arise. The large reflects the small. This is the path of nature. Let kindness for others and ourselves be the pattern that we begin to expand into the world in this coming new year. Blessed be, and may it be so.